Richard survived an attack with kitchen scissors. Spoiler alert, we give away the endings of 1957's Old Yeller. And what's better, amateur football or winning a medal at the Olympics, as we try and navigate midlife. Hello and welcome to episode 4 of Mum, Dad's Got Another Tattoo, the Midlife Crisis podcast. I'm Mark, I'm here with my co-host Richard.
Hello.
How you doing, Richard?
I'm good. Sun is shining. Not missing the damp and grey weather. Oh, yeah, all's good.
That's good to hear. So what's been going on this week?
Well, since we started this, I've weirdly, everything becomes content. You start thinking from a podcast point of view. But there was an absolutely great moment that as it happened, I went, well, that's been spoken about. Standing in the kitchen the other night, just talking to my wife, cooking dinner, and she approaches me with a massive pair of kitchen scissors. Doesn't say anything, and just starts trimming my eyebrows like I'm Norman Lamont. You know, over the last couple of years, we all do it. I've noticed hair sprouting from places that no one wants. And it's weird because my body, I'm like an otter. You know, I am smooth. I couldn't grow a chest hair if my life depended on it. A beard, no chance. Yet I get one out the side of my neck that can, if left unmolested, can get to about 6 to 8 inches before I snag it on a piece of clothing and realise it's got to come out. I pull it and a week later it's back. But yeah, apart from that, it's been great.
Well, one of the mysteries of midlife, of course. I've had a resolution of sorts to the car issue. Went to the specialist place the other day, and not entirely dramatic, sadly, for content purposes, as you rightly point out. But I got the invoice through, £996.37p.
I mean, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money for a light and a bit of a bang at the back.
Well, I'm going to surprise you and tell you that I actually want it to be a little bit more expensive. And the reason is that they say you can pay these things interest-free over 4 months.
Music
Great.
to my ears.
I love that. Always borrow money when you can, not when you have to. A little bit of unsolicited financial advice there. But the minimum is £1,000. And I'm sitting at just under £3.50 short of that.
I'd have told them to empty the ashtray, hoover the car, just whack anything on that invoice.
I have requested some additional work, which hopefully will come to the value. I think they're going to end up charging me an extra 50 quid for it. So
yeah,
but hopefully that will be back.
Won't hurt over 3 months.
No. So that's what we've been up to. I've also been reviewing previous episodes. Just, you know, as a bit of self-improvement, like a football manager going through past defeats, trying to live through the pain. And one of the things that you've said previously is that you used to play sports at a reasonably high level. And I think that's fair. I say something very similar when I proudly talk about my own football career. What I mean, when I say sport at a reasonably high level, I'm talking about the 7 games I played in the late 90s in the 9th tier of English football.
Oh, I mean, you're above the clouds there, aren't you? Well, I mean, we did play in the same team. We played in the same team for a few years, and what glorious years they were. They were
glorious years. However, let me demonstrate the pitfalls of saying these things out loud. Because I used to work for a US, we'll just call it a US company for now. And I said these phrases to a colleague that had come over from the San Francisco office. I said, I used to play sport at a reasonably high level. And he said, really? So did I. What did you do? I said, I played 7 games in the 9th tier of English football about 15 years ago, as it was then. What did you do? He said, I won a silver medal in rowing at the 2000 Olympics. Like, yeah.
I mean, there's no answer to that, is there? I mean, there's...
I did have an answer. Yours is better.
He won silver.
Yeah, but here's the thing as well that I've thought about is that I will tell people about my 7 games in the 9th tier of English football at the drop of a hat. I need absolutely no invitation to do it. he holds that information back, and what's more, probably lays awake at night wondering how he didn't win gold, what he could have done to get over the line, tearing himself apart.
I mean, we tear ourselves apart, but in a very different way.
Another midlife subject that we'll get onto in future episodes, perhaps.
Yeah. Sport is one of those things where, yeah, I mean, it's the famous thing. I had trials once. You know, it's that famous quote.
But the famous quote that I think you're referring to is, "The older a man gets, the better he used to be."
Oh, I catch myself sometimes. I can still see that. I catch myself seeing 140-yard cross-field pinger that landed on a left winger's foot on the run, and I must think about that pass twice a week. Genuinely. Yeah, genuinely.
I've got a header that I scored in the East London nine-a-side floodlit league on a Thursday night. It was an absolute peach. And yeah, my old mate Sebastian, lying there, awake at night, totally unfulfilled that he was unable to win a gold medal.
He was 0.02 seconds away from being the greatest man on the planet.
Yeah, it's that, that Seinfeld thing about, 100-metre runners where the difference between greatest guy in the world, never heard of him, is like 2 millimetres. I don't know. I think he might have lost to Steve Redgrave, actually. I'll have to check the records. I did look up his record. He did win a gold medal in the World Championships a year later.
It's not the Olympics, though, is it? Just the World Championships.
What a loser.
Well, I bet he can't even bench.
I bet he can. He was massive. He was about 6'6" as well. It was like your archetypal American rower.
And do you know the worst thing about it? I bet he's a really nice bloke.
He is a nice bloke. He's a nice bloke. I'm still in contact with him actually from time to time. So yeah, but I very rarely bring up my former sporting prowess in these conversations.
Plus the fact your knee kept popping out. I mean, that was always a hindrance.
Always a hindrance. But the other thing I've noticed this week in getting older is that I'm going to say half a Radio 2 guy.
Oh, see, I'm not there yet. I'm not. Well, my wife has it on in the car, and I can't stomach it, especially on a Sunday.
Well, Sunday. See, this is why I'm half, because I think basically Radio 2 needs to be split into Radio 2A and Radio 2B. Yeah. Because let's assume that I'm listening to Radio 2A. It was songs from the late 90s, early 2000s. They've got Dermot O'Leary, Sarah Cox, Zoe Ball, Scott Mills, Trevor Nelson, Spoonie, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. But then, as you say, there's the flip side, Radio 2B. Michael Ball, Elaine Page and the show tunes. Oh. The love songs on the Sunday morning. Lisa Tarbuck on a Saturday evening. I don't know if Roy and Susan dancing around the living room having a cheeky Chablis and a lasagna on a Saturday night. I mean, Radio 2B. So if BBC executives are listening, I think that's a great idea. Split it into two. And so you can have 1 foot in Radio 1 and 1 foot in Radio 2A, which is where I am. And then once all of that sounds like utter noise to you, you graduate to Radio 2B, Michael Ball and Elaine Page.
You see, I'm on the other end of the spectrum. I'm still raging against the dying light.
You're on Radio 6?
No.
XFM?
I still listen to the hippity harp, all that. Like I mentioned to you earlier, with my new setup, I feel like Fetty Wap. You didn't even know who that was.
I did not know.
No, I was listening to him at the driving range earlier.
Can I be brutally honest? When you said Fetty Wap, I actually thought it was a character from Star Wars.
No, he's a rapper. He's a rapper, but he's fairly mainstream. I mean, I had a chat with a friend of ours who's even heavier into his rap and R&B than I think. Blimey, mate. We were looking at get Kendrick Lamar tickets for the summer, and I said, mate, we're 46. It's not a good look, is it? And then people go, where are you going? Kendrick Lamar. And then you've got to explain to the family who you're going to see. And then they may look up who you're seeing. And then, I'm still at that stage.
Well, I congratulate you for that. I am going to see someone in the summer, which is less mainstream and current. I'm going to see Iron Maiden.
I see. I love a drop of Iron Maiden.
Well, I'll tell you the reason why. We'll get onto this a bit later, I think, in this. When I was getting tattooed.
Here we go. Here we go. You see it?
4 episodes.
You've done amazingly well.
It's in the title as well. Come on, do me a favour. Anyway, we were talking. He was our age, and he had very similar taste in music. And he had been to see AC/DC live. Now, my vision of AC/DC, even in the later version of them, is that live River Plate gig where the whole place absolutely goes off, and Thunderstruck is maybe one of the greatest live performances I've seen, but that includes the crowd participation as well. And I mentioned that to him, and he said they're not like that now. And it's a few years have gone by. Brian Johnson, the AC/DC version, is basically stone deaf, can't move, and his voice isn't that. And I said to him, I'm worried then that because I'm thinking about getting Iron Maiden tickets. He went, no, go and see them. Bruce Dickinson, he has kept his voice in tip-top shape. I think the drummer's having some health problems, so Nico McBrain. So hopefully he can make the tour this time. And but Steve Harris and the rest of them will be there. So I'm really looking forward to that, and hopefully they can put on a great performance. My dad went to see Bruce Springsteen and he's in his 70s, and he's still doing 3-hour gigs. And he actually said it was the best concert he's ever been to. And he's been to the Pooh and the Valley in 1974 and Queen in 1986. So he's got a benchmark of gigs.
One thing your old man has is music knowledge.
Music knowledge. I thought you were going to say taste then. I was going to pull you up, but knowledge, I'll give you that.
Big TC has got some. His music tastes are, or his music knowledge is second to none.
I'd say the reason why I hesitate to say taste, I think vinyl records will probably be a subject we get onto at some point. But he moved house, and I've now got his vinyl records, half of which are behind me in this room now, and there's some crackers in there, half of which are in the attic because it is utter shocking shit. The best of Donny Lonergan, for example. But there's loads of stuff like that you like, all this middle of the road crap. But in his defence, I think the reason for that is because this was all bought pre-streaming, of course. And one of the things that we used to have at Christmas was a big party with the soundtrack of the long-forgotten mixtape. And he would spend months putting these things together, and he would think about the whole audience, older relatives, grandparents, etc., and some of the old classics, something for the kids, all that sort of stuff. And sometimes he would buy one of these records. Some of them still got the label on them, like £2 for 12-inch, inflation and all that, but still. He would buy it for one song so he could put it on the mixtape for Christmas. But now that's in the loft. But some of the better stuff is behind me. We've got some original Who records and Dark Side of the Moon, original prints and all that sort of stuff. So pleased to have that.
I mean, your dad's Christmas albums were the stuff of legend, as far as I'm concerned. Especially we've always had Running Bear.
Running Bear by Johnny Preston. Now that's still a feature of our Christmases, and but now we do it in a completely different way, which is streaming from an iPhone. I nearly said an iPod there. Fucking hell.
Yeah, I love the ease of access. I've got so many playlists on my phone, right, for driving range, driving, whatever genre I fancy. But it takes away that feel, grabbing an album, going to the effort of making a playlist where you've got to put an LP on, get it in the right place. All that effort, that's a labour of love as far as I'm concerned.
I have a similar thing because one of the midlife things I've got into vinyl. I don't want to ruin a future episode, but one of the issues is I just can't decide so I've got about 500 albums behind me. I just cannot pick which one I want to listen to. And then, of course, you've got to listen. You're committed to listen to it. Yeah. And my brain is still, I guess, a prisoner of the Spotify or iTunes. iTunes, fucking arms. I'm talking like 2007. The
still got
Spotify or Apple Music, Apple Music, and all that. So you put an album on. There's two things. You've got to commit to listen to at least one side of it, and then after quite a short amount of time, say 15, 20 minutes, you've got to get up, turn it over. I mean, I know it's not exactly going down the mine or anything, but it's an interruption, especially if you have it as a bit of background noise while you're reading it, while you're listening to it, sorry. So it was one of those things I was really enthusiastic about until the actual practical realities of it hit me in the face. And that's why Spotify and all that sort of stuff is so popular, because it, gets inside your brain and feeds you basically the same old shit you've listened to for the last 40 years.
But then I've just come up with £1 million idea.
Don't give it away for free.
No, copyrighted. Copyrighted, so no one can use this. If I see this on the shelves, I'm coming for someone. Right. Why doesn't someone design an LP with, when the track starts and stops, a little white marker or coloured marker where you can put the needle on and the track starts? Why hasn't that been? I mean, we've put a man on the moon, allegedly, or satire. Why has no one come up with that? Where the track starts and stops, something visual where you can... Oh, they probably have. You're probably going to tell me that this has happened. And
well, I'm going to tell you it's a feature of the actual... When you look at the record, there is a bigger groove at the start of each song.
The last time I looked at an album was 1987, and it was Derek and Clive live, and my mum and dad were in bed, so that's when I stuck it on.
A great album. I can reveal that is part of the non-attic collection behind me as well. Won't be on now. Look, I'm not having a pop at your recollection of vinyl records. I'm just saying that it's a great idea. They thought of it already.
Fair enough.
The other thing that kind of smacked me in the face today, without how fucking old we are, is, again, all these adults that are younger than us in completely different generations. Now, my wife is a teacher. She's 16 to 18-year-old, so 18, that's an adult.
That sounds like hell on earth to me.
Listen to this. Never heard, not watched, never heard of Back to the Future.
Fuck this. How can you not have heard? I mean...
Well, they're 40-year-old films.
I've heard of the Titanic, Mark. I've heard of... I know films from 40 years ago.
Ah, right. We're going to have... So these are films from...
I've said it now, and I...
Right, so these are films from 40 years ago, and I went through the list to see if...
Bridge over the River Kwai, what year?
That was... Right. Hold that thought there. That's amazing. Right, hold that thought.
I've seen that bastard 5 times.
That's very good, and you will be glad that you said that in about 2 minutes.
Okay, perfect.
However, for the time being, we're going to go through the films also released in the year of Back to the Future, 1985.
Go on.
And I asked my wife to ask them if they had heard of any of them.
I'm going to get angry, aren't I?
Back to the Future's number 1. No. View to a Kill, Bond film. So, I mean, they've heard of James Bond.
Christmas it's on.
Beverly Hills Cop, kind of, because there were fourth one was on Netflix recently. Police Academy 2, or Police Academy, never heard of it.
That's Tackleberry's finest moment.
Rambo, Part 2, never heard of Rambo. There's a Christmas film called Santa Claus. I can't remember this myself.
It's brilliant.
Actually.
It's brilliant.
Is that good?
Yeah.
I have seen it, actually. He's got Dudley Moore in it. I have seen it. A Passage to India, not heard of it. 101 Dalmatian, I have heard of it, but I suspect they're thinking of a much more recent...
It's a remake.
Number 9, Desperately Seeking Susan with Madonna, never heard of it. Number 10, Mad Max Beyond the Thunderdome, never heard of it.
But Mad Max has got... But surely... Now, with me, if you see a great film and... I mean, maybe they don't know there's prequels to it, but... Yeah, I mean, there's a few Mad Maxes that have come out, but again, I've gone the other way. I've seen the originals, haven't seen the new ones. So
now let's take your outrage at them not even hearing of these films. Take you back to 1997 when you were 18, and I've got here the highest grossing films of 1957. So they're equivalent.
Okay,
right. Let's see.
And I will be honest with these.
You're gonna like number one. Number one, Bridge on the River Kwai.
Get in. See?
The rest of it might not go quite as well. Number two, Peyton Place.
No, never heard of it.
Number three, Sayonara.
Bless you.
Number four, Search for Paradise.
No.
Number five, I think you would have heard of Old Yeller.
Yeah, well, they shoot the dog at the end. Yeah. I've never seen it.
Spoiler.
It's 40 years old.
It's not 40 years old. It's nearly 70 years old.
But again, it's one of those films I've never seen, but I only know it because it's a trope where it's an American trope where they all talk about Old Yeller, but I've never actually seen it.
Yeah. Raintree County.
No.
Island in the Sun, A Farewell to Arms. So I don't think I have.
Shite.
Pale Joey. Gunfight at the Oak.
Whoa. Well, I mean, I guarantee that's not good. That's not going to be on telly anymore.
It's not pale as in like shade. It's like my pal.
Oh,
Sorry,
okay.
That was me misreading it. Pal Joey. Number 9, Gunfight at the OK Corral.
Yeah.
And number 10, Don't Go Near the Water.
That sounds like a public service announcement rather than a film.
It is a 1957 American comedy about the US Navy Public Relations Unit stationed on an island in the Pacific Ocean during World War II.
Do you know something about watching even films from the 80s now? And I think it's, again, I get a midlife. Films now have to be so fast paced. And if you watch films then, there's so even one of my favourite films of all time, Ghostbusters, the original Ghostbusters. There's so much dialogue in the middle where nothing happens. And you sit at the time, I still remember the day my dad took me to the cinema to see Ghostbusters for the first time. I remember the cinema. I remember we were in Bournemouth. We used to go there every New Year. It just come out. And you watch those films in the 80s and 70s now, and you're like, fuck, this. They could lose half an hour of each film because these days it feels like filler. But everything needs to be so fast paced now.
I noticed that. I tried to get the child to watch the original cartoon version of The Jungle Book. Oh. And she was a little bit younger than maybe 5 or 6. It didn't have to take a long time to get going.
And you, as an adult, because we've seen all these new films where it's from minute one, it's fast paced. You sit there and your brain starts wandering.
Yeah, it does. It does say something about our attention spans and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, so I think we can forgive them not hearing hearing of Back to the Future if we've had an additional 40 years to hear of these films as well, and they're not as good as Back to the Future. It was fucking brilliant.
He grabbed the back of a car and rode on a skateboard, didn't he?
It was amazing. I loved it. And Kevin Bolton, by the way, if you're out there, you told me without a shadow of a doubt, you went to America and you saw hoverboards, right? Not those shitty ones with wheels that don't hover, and just like actual hoverboards. So, Kevin, where the fuck are these hoverboards? That's what I want to know.
Can I just say, I made a purchase recently, and it's there, and I'll get it for you. And when I saw it online, I thought immediately of Marty McFly. Would you like me to? Let me put it on.
Okay. This is a little bit of a challenging medium for an audio-only production, but that's what social media was invented for. So let's have a look.
Oh, that fucking gilet.
He's got a gilet on.
That. Got me gillet on.
It's not a million miles. It's not exactly the right colour, but it's not a million miles away. You can do that thing up. It'll fit.
What are you fucking talking about? It's like 4.5 stone down. Look at that. Buzz up. Little pocket there.
Dear listener, I can confirm that. I mean, he's standing up. I don't know if he'll be sitting down in it.
What are you talking about? What's wrong with me?
Yeah, going a bit red, I think, in the face as it tightens up there.
I've been out in the cold.
It looks very nice. I didn't immediately get a Marty McFly vibe, but I think you do have to, point it out, which, I'm not against at all. So, another thing, while we're on the subject of the mid-80s that I heard this week, it's just
I mean, I could stay on this subject all day, let's be honest.
Well, maybe we will. Maybe we will. Wake Me Up Before You Go by Wham is now closer to the end of the Second World War than it is today.
I mean, see, facts like that they're amazing, but they scare me.
It's scary. It is scary. Time is ticking on.
Father Time's undefeated.
I kind of want to make this a regular feature where we kick off or tick off things that are closer to. Well, it's going to start being closer to the end of World War One as well, like the Beatles, for example. And not that we're contemporaries of that, but it's part of our cultural oeuvre, the Beatles and the Stones and all that sort of stuff. And it is a long time. I've got something coming up which will emphasise this a little bit further. We're at 27 minutes already, Rich.
That's the longest I probably haven't looked at my phone in 10 years.
Now, Richard, dear listener, I want to talk about tattoos, but I'm sure you can believe that I actually go on about this quite often. And the plan was to include this on today's episode, but we seem to be coming towards the end, and I don't really think we've got time to do it. Now, is that just an accident, or was that a planned deflection to hear about this one more time?
Now, listener, both of you, I'm going to prepare you for this because I was with Mark a few weeks ago and a group of other friends. We'd have a once a year gathering because we are NFL dweebs as well. We have a night where we go and watch, we get an Airbnb, we see each other once a year. It's a really great time. And if he didn't mention his new fucking tattoos, every 90 seconds, and I'm an over-exaggerator, and I'm underplaying that, so it's going to need a full episode, and I think the next episode is the perfect time to do that.
It sounds like you're putting it off a little bit, Richard. There, I'm not sure we will.
I'm tired, Robbie.
We're getting a bit meta with that. So I think you're right, though. I think it does deserve its own episode, and we will get onto tattoos at some point. I mean, look at the title of the show, for example, a quote from my dear daughter as I come through the door once, and that is indeed her voice at the beginning of the show. So I guess that's something to look forward to for the next episode, and until then, thank you very much for listening, and see you soon.
See you later.
Mom! Dad!